You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take.
When I'm the enemy, because I like to think.
You can dress like a Barbie doll. You can hang out like a biker's mom. You fit in anywhere you go. Bring your own style just to steal the show. You shine it so out with a slow and you said, drink with a loud, you drink your smoke on your bed. Love by all yourself, you know. You're always involved, you're the star of the show.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Fultonland Live. It's good to see you guys this morning. I'm a little, I'm not really under the weather, but I'm suffering a little bit. I messed up my back a few days ago, and I was telling Russ before the show started, it feels like about 25% of my back just got chewed up by a meat grinder. So, show might go a little short today. Just depends on how long I can sit in this chair. But I'm glad to be here and glad to see all of you guys. So let's see who we've got. Darren Wagoner, Mo Biggs. Mo, is it true that you want some artwork? I know that Dan Frega is running an art competition, and I saw an AR-15 orangutan in the wild. Yeah, here we go. Darren says, congrats to Mo Biggs for winning Frega June compliments of Lord Crackhead, who won with AR-15 orangutan, and give it to Mo Biggs.
Oh, lovely.
That's fantastic. Look at you, Crackhead. That's very generous of you. Good morning, Stato. Good to see you here, my friend.
Great to see you, Stat.
And Amanda B. Got our senior counselor in chief. That's always good for me to know that I've got my intellectual crutch I can lean on. Jim
It's always
Cox.
good to have an intellectual crutch.
Yeah, I think so. That way it keeps my brain from falling out of my ear, which is embarrassing. Jim Cox, good to see you here live. Who else do we have with us today? I Borrow Ideas. Good to see you, my friend. Hey. And Luis Ledesma. Good to see you. Good morning. Oh, it's our buddy Oliver from 656.
Ah, Oliver. Hello.
Good to see you guys here. Well, Russ, how are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm still pretty much, it's pretty dull, really. I'm exactly the same as I was last week.
So you're doing a lot of drawing.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of inking at the moment. A lot of inking for Outliers. Few bits and pieces as well for Only Death Can Save Us. That's my in-demand story is ending on the 2nd of July.
Okay.
So that's out for everyone to see. So if anyone wants a copy, you can't get it after the 2nd. And also, obviously, I'm doing the reprints through Arrow Comics. So there's covers and bits and pieces that I've got to do and ink up for those books as well. But it is mostly, I mean, it's like good 85-90% Outliers at the moment. And I'm thoroughly enjoying myself with a brush. It's great. Yes, my camera angle does change every time I stream. I like to mix it up and keep everybody happy.
Yeah, well, I can't complain about that. You're certainly keeping me happy with the inked artwork I've been seeing for the Outliers, and we're gonna show off a sequence today from the book that will tie into our conversation this morning. And I just have a question though on the Arrow Comics, the single issue floppy version of Only Death. So you had to break down your graphic novel story because you didn't when you
when you
wrote and drew that, you didn't know that this deal would be coming later on down the line.
Didn't know the deal was coming down the line. As Peter Sametti mentioned, he told me to sling my hook. No, I showed it to Peter, and he said he came back with some comments on the story, and unfortunately, I could not change the story. It's just it had to begin a certain way, and that wasn't quite what Pete was looking for. Although he was very complimentary about what I was doing, very complimentary about the art, which was much appreciated. That he gave me that input. So I kind of had an idea of possibly breaking it into 2 books. But after Pete said, it wasn't quite right for Alterno, I thought, well, no, I'm just going to make a graphic novel. Fortunately, the pacing of it worked, that it can actually be broken down into 3 20-page blocks. What I'm going to do is unfortunately, just the way this has worked out, because I was offered this after the book had been produced, I couldn't do anything about this. So I've added in a couple of pages, actually 3 pages, so like a beginning and an ending to round it off. And all those pages will be included in the second book so that people can see how the Arrow books worked out. And also there'll be some extra content, which is, again, going to be stuffed into the second book, so that people can get that, and then an exclusive color story, a backup story that you can only get in the Indiegogo books. You can't get it in the Arrow books at all. So it was a bit awkward, but for the second book, Rick and I have already planned it out to be a 3-parter. So it reads as a 1 graphic novel, but it's split into kind of 3 chapters, or 3 acts, should I say, rather than chapters. And so that works so much better with the splitting up for Arrow Comics. And that'll be out. The second book, I'll be starting the campaign 1st of September. That's what I'm aiming for, so that it can be delivered to everybody in January, like I did this year and last year. And then so floppy number 4, which is just the first 23 pages of the second book, will be available in February next year. So you get the whole book before Arrow gets it, which is the way it should be. But you also get exclusive content, and you also get the rather lovely printing that Mick Sam produced for the first book in the second book. I already have. I'm going to make an announcement today. I already have a couple of very special things for people who, first off, for my first 200 backers, there will be something for them. Not something that you can just get. It's just for the first 200. But also for those people that back the book, there will be a secret tier, and that will be Preston's Acevedo's version of Only Death Can Save Us, which I've worked out with him. And I've seen a sketch, and I'll show you the sketch after we go off air.
Okay.
And it's bloody gorgeous. So I'm very, very pleased. That will be something that people will get the opportunity for. Basically, that anybody who has backed the book and is on my mail list will get to get to a secret perk where they can buy the book exactly the same price as everyone else, but they'll get the free print. Nice. Anybody who does not have that link will have to buy the print on top.
Okay, cool.
But it will be available for everybody. But obviously, I want to reward those people that back me first time round. Right. And then, as ever, there will be something a little special thrown in at the end that nobody will know about. So, like this time, I did stickers, and I did the fridge magnet. But everybody got a print as well that they weren't expecting. So I think it's always important to give people more than they expect.
So definitely.
But that's kind of how the Arrow thing is working. So much like, I've been looking at Clint, obviously, and how he's done it, and I've seen his model, and it seems to work really well. People like it, and so I've basically followed in the footsteps of the great man himself, and been fortunate enough to work with Arrow on this. And and we'll see where it goes. I mean, if it goes somewhere, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'll still be making Only Death Can Save Us books.
Yeah.
And I'll still be drawing Outliers comics, obviously.
Yeah, well, it's cool that we can see different examples of people. They're building up their businesses and getting books out to people. They're doing it their own style. They're doing it their own way. But the end result is, you've got many examples of people who started with no audience and they built it up from nothing. Whether it's Clint Stoker with Downcast or the Diaz brothers with Zape Comics, Magic Cop, and Lost Pages. I mean, I could go on and on, but the point is that there are certain commonalities where if you look at their progress, many of these different creators, you'll see commonalities, but there was never anybody standing over them saying you have to follow, this list of items.
No.
And it's only if you do all of these things, then, that list is really, really short and it's common sense type of stuff. And then everything else is optional. And you do it or you don't. And if you do it, you choose how you do it.
Yeah, there's a few core things. The core thing is, first and foremost, make sure that you do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you're going to provide a book, you're going to say you're going to do it on time, and even if you their life gets you, but be honest with people and be transparent and be yourself. Okay, and people will respond to that. Make a good book. People have to be honest with themselves. I mean, I didn't know. I thought I'd made a good book. That was as honest as I could be, and I've had responses that have said you made a good book. So I must have had the right sense. It's kind of done. It's gone okay. As far as my backers are concerned, to have over 200 backers on my first time out, when I don't have a channel like Clint or anybody, and I don't kind of survive on news items in my channel. It's all art. I mean, obviously I have opinions, but it's all art. I think I've done pretty well for that, and I'm so thankful for those people responding the way they've done. And the best you can do is give them as much as you possibly can. Give them those things. So really, it's just like a couple of core things. Make sure you are transparent and deliver, and make sure that you keep your standards high. And outside of that, people will respond. They will respond to that. So I'm not doing Cyberfrog numbers. I'm not even doing Clint Stoker numbers, but I'm doing the numbers I'm doing, and I'm very, very pleased with that. And of course, it gives you opportunities as well by showing yourself to be professional, to be dependable. Don't suck, Russ Leach. I don't know if that was a command or a request.
I think he was quoting you.
Don't suck.
That might be your highlight quote of 2021.
Don't suck.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't suck. Don't exactly. Just be the best you can be, and that sounds so cliche and awful, but it is. It's just do your best, and respond to people. Be professional. Be courteous, and if you do those things, not only have I been able to be involved in my book, somebody else has come along and said, Arrow have come along and Indie Vault come along and gone, that's a great book. We've got an opportunity for you to go out to a direct market. Would you like it? Yes, of course. And then I get to meet you. We get to work together, and I get to work with some amazing people like Ink Spots and Eric Weathers, and it's like, I couldn't get any better than that. How can it get any better? You asked me how I'm feeling. How are you doing this week, Russ? I'm doing absolutely fine. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying life, and it's good. And the way it's even sunny here. So there you go. Britain is even sunny.
Yeah, you can't beat that. A sunny day in Britain that doesn't come along every day. So you really appreciate it when it shows up, right?
The sunny days do happen quite a bit. You just don't know when they're going to turn up.
It's kind of like that quote from Gandalf about wizards. The sunny day will turn up precisely when it means to.
Yes, exactly.
It's never early. It's never late.
It's precisely when the sunny day should be. Yeah.
Well, that's good. So yeah, we were talking. You were talking a little bit about how some of those common sense things that successful people are doing that they have in common. One of them being, be professional and do what you say you're going to do. And you were mentioning different YouTube channels, and some of them cover what we colloquially term as drama. But really, that could be anything under the sun. It just happens to be whatever people are talking about that day that's getting attention. And sometimes it's good drama, sometimes it's bad drama, sometimes it's both. But it occurred to me last night when I was thinking about things related to the industry. For example, this fabulous comic from Amelia Clark about a superhero character who is empowered by her menstrual cycle to do things like swing around buildings with her armpit hair.
I showed that to my wife, and she obviously internalized her misogyny and laughed at it quite loudly.
No, that's awful.
It's just who is this woman? She's just turned up. Is she a excuse my ignorance? I haven't got a clue who she is. I saw the story, so I know what the story is. But you go. So I saw the story, but I don't know who she is. What is she? An actress?
Okay, she's an actress. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Nah.
Okay. Did you happen to see the weak Terminator movie? I'll be more specific, I promise. The weak Terminator movie where there was a young Sarah Connor and an old Terminator?
Genesis.
Yes, Genesis.
I managed to work my way through that.
Okay, so
that's her, is it?
She played the young Sarah Connor.
Oh, right. Okay, so she's an actress, so she thinks that she knows what comic books need. Another celebrity writer. That's all we need. That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Jasper is saying, how many shows are going to cover this topic? I promise, Jasper, we're not going to spend much time on it. No. It's a brief moment, and then we're going to get into the real topic.
Yeah. Brief moment. It's so once again, somebody just like throwing their oar in, thinking that they can change things.
Well,
when they have no appreciation of the comic book industry, no appreciation of why people read comics, men or women, why they read comics. So.
And to be fair, it is advertised as a comedic book. So, okay, fair enough. It's a comedic book. These are ridiculous ideas. You're trying to make people laugh. Great. But there's also a fair amount of like socio-political agenda from what I've seen in the book. But anyway, the reason why I brought it up is that if her goal is to like make some sort of impact on comic book readers or the comic book industry or whatever, because I know she had some like high and mighty, some lofty goals that she said that she wanted to do, blah, 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 blah. And so my question is, why, if those are your goals, why would you make a book like this?
Yeah.
Why you're in this show, Game of Thrones, which I only watched the first season because we had like free HBO for a weekend, and people had been raving about it for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years by that point. So I decided to just, binge watch the first season. And one thing that I noticed right away is there's a lot of drama in the show. And that doesn't necessarily mean, people yelling at each other. It means that there's conflict in the sense that there's one person or group with an objective, and there's another person with group with an objective, and they're conflicting.
Yeah, there's tension and intrigue, isn't there? Right. Tension and intrigue creates drama, which makes you want to, makes you want to see more, makes you want to find out where the story goes. Yeah.
So So here's my question: is um, do you think that if more comic pros um, spent time really thinking about uh, dramatic conflict in storytelling,
Mm.
in terms of what readers will find interesting and what they will relate to and respond to, um, do you think the the result, if they made these sincere efforts, do you think the result would be better, the same, worse, versus what we often get now, especially from corporate comics, which seems to me, this is just me, people are free to disagree. It seems to be most of it is disingenuous.
Mm.
Most of it is kind of this snarky, LOL, so random
Yeah.
type of dialogue.
Yeah.
Even when the characters are supposed to be in dramatic
Yeah.
conflict, to me it seems like it's no stakes storytelling.
Yeah, I think to answer Leroy's question there, it was talking about we complain when they ruin existing IP, and we complain when they create something new. Uh, I don't think the complaint here is about her making something new, although I
Mm-mm.
personally think the idea is ridiculous. I think the complaint is about the drama, which is about the fact she's come out and stated that she's going to do it instead of just getting on and doing it. And that kind of says everything about the entertainment environment. Lots of people pledging to do things and saying they're going to do things and virtue signaling about what they're going to do, and then not actually putting any real drama down on the page, not putting anything that's worthwhile. I mean, it's when you talk about characters and it's about their immutable characteristics, like what color they are, what sex they are,
Yeah.
what gender, or whatever it might be, and putting that as your marketing line.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first, brown person with one leg who's hopped off the moon. Like in fact, even that marketing line is more interesting than half the Marvel ones, because I said hopped off the moon at the end by mistake. So it's that's the drama we're talking about. It's this virtue signaling about things instead of just getting on with it
Right.
and making a great story, and then having the story do the work for you, having the quality of your work make
Mm-hmm.
the drama. So the
And
quality of your work should be creating any drama around it, where there's a
yeah,
discussion. That's what art is all about.
it's like back when we could all go to comic shops and hang out and chat and argue about who would win against who in a fight. That's the sort of stuff, like somebody's at the counter and they're um, picking up an issue of Craven's Last Hunt, and
Mm,
there's another guy who's walking away from the register, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna love that issue. I just bought it 10 minutes ago. I read it. I'm going home. I'm reading it again.
mm,
You're gonna love it." And then that would be an example of drama in the book, not only leaving an impact on that one reader who's already read it and is recommending it to someone else, but that's the kind of thing that people will talk about. And
mm.
then, like word of mouth will spread, more people buy the book, et cetera, et cetera. Um,
Yeah.
it-
Yeah, having a drama about the creators, or about the creators' process, or about the immutable characteristics of the characters is not the kind of drama that will sell books.
and I think, and guys and gals in the chat, tell me if you think I'm on the right track here. But it seems to me like the most memorable stories, whether it's comics or film or mythology or whatever,
Mm,
were uh, they were impactful because the people that created them understood the human condition and understood how to write different people with different voices in different situations in a way that the reader could relate to, uh, or not relate to, but be entertained by in some
mm.
other way. Even if they didn't relate with a particular character,
Yeah.
they at least understood, oh, I'm seeing different vagaries of the human condition being played out on this fictional stage, and it entertains me. It interests me, and so I think it has to do with those storytellers understanding what it's like to be human,
Mm.
and then expressing that in the in their fiction.
And some life experience as well. But
Oh yeah, good point.
some of the stuff that jumps out to me that I can just pick out at the top of my head would be I know the run in Fantastic Four where Galactus turns up and he sent the Airwalker as a herald, and the Airwalker was it the Archangel Gabriel? And it had to blow his horn, so there was like these biblical references. And as a kid, I wasn't brought up as a religious child at all, but I understood the religious references. And as a kid reading through this on a week, because these were all reprints to me, and I was like hungrily reading through the Fantastic Four, even though I was reading a Captain Britain book, and thinking, oh God, what's happening next? And Gabriel, there was this fantastic splash page of the Airwalker blowing the horn, and then Galactus turns up, and like the drama involved in that, I mean, there's obviously visual drama involved in that. It was very, it was of its age. Yeah. And every shot, you know, people had their legs spread wide and they were clenching their fists, and you know, but it was drama. It was fantastic. It was, the storytelling was just so much energy, and I was gripped. And that's just one story that I've picked out of the many that I can remember as a kid that was true drama. And I understood that even as a child. I understood the dramatic impact of it, and the effect that had on me. Also, the deterioration with the Overmind turned up and was it, you know, effectively destroying the Fantastic Four from within. Took control of Reed Richards. The Stranger turned up. And the depth of the fact that the Stranger and the Overmind were the collective souls and consciousnesses of entire civilizations, and just oh guys, it's just like it absolutely threw my mind out. And I was just a kid, and I lapped it all up and understood it and was totally dragged in by the drama of it. Those storytellers, just fantastic.
Didn't it feel like there were real consequences for the characters in that story?
Yeah, even though they were fantastical, even though it was like these are like super, you know, or cosmic characters, and there's no way this is everyday life. It was still, it caught you. It made you, you know. I mean, that run is probably one of the most impactful on me. I always remembered the book for Captain Britain, but actually I look back on it now, and that Fantastic Four run was just so damn good, and there were so many dramatic stories in there. The Reed Richards walking away and saying the Fantastic Four is no more was overused. But the other stories intermingled were really, really good, and they just pulled you along. And it's those kind of comics that you remember. Those stories, they stay with you. When you get it right, when you get that drama right, when you get that interaction with the reader, when you really pull someone in, there's something that stays with you, like any kind of fantastic film you might have seen. So a film that, I go out and I watch Pacific Rim. All right, it's tripe. It's great. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I wasn't thinking about it the day after I watched it, short of maybe some of the visuals being useful to me. Right. I didn't think about it. But something like, I know, The Sixth Sense or 12 Monkeys, that made me think for a week afterwards. There would be little things, you know, that it makes you think. It drags you in, and it makes you think. It gives you a process of interaction between you and the storyteller. Even though you don't see those storytellers, you don't see the director, you don't see who the actors really are, you don't see the writer, you don't see the producer, and yet all those things are making that story, and they're connecting with you on a very direct level. And then you're going away, and it's in your head, then nobody else's head. It's your private world, and you're thinking about it. You're spending your private world time thinking about a story. And the comics I used to read as a kid, they did exactly the same thing. Not all of them. I mean, a lot of them were just, you know, silly stories. But so many of them did have, real. Like you said, they had consequences for the characters, and it touched you on a human level, which meant that you were empathetic for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really important to lead. And I know it's a different world because of social media and the entertainment industry, and the cult of celebrity has just gone out of control. But you didn't really hear anything about these people. They just told stories.
Right.
Even to a degree, filmmakers as well. They told stories, and all you got was the story. And that was the important bit, the end product. Any drama that went on around their personal lives tended to be drowned out by the fact that you were just, consuming the entertainment.
You mentioned The Sixth Sense, and I was thinking of that as you were talking. And then Statistical Zero says, just showed my wife The Sixth Sense last night. She didn't even know how it ended. That was special. And I remember my wife and I saw it in the theater when the movie first came out. We didn't know anything about it, had never seen a preview. We just went in blind. And we really enjoyed it. Now, that is one of the slowest moving movies I've ever watched. And yet there was interest for us because it was drama done correctly. I could really feel for the character David and his wife and what they were going through. And then there's the kid, and on and on. But the point is that it didn't have to be big explosions or a cop getting in the face of a crook and reading him the riot act or anything. It didn't have to be lots of anger, lots of yelling. It didn't have to be big. It could be very small and contained, and yet hold your interest, because the creators, I think it keeps coming back to this. They understood what it's like to be a human being, and they understood how to appeal to others on a human level with the way that they established the characters, combining that with the way it was filmed, the music, and all of that. It all works together, much like in a comic where you've got the writing, you've got the visuals, in the lettering, you have a combination of writing and visuals. So it really, you bring it all together. And I just think that a lot of the problems that we see with bad storytelling in the last several years, whether it's comics or film or video games or whatever the medium, I think a lot of it comes down to people growing up not really understanding what it is to be a person with a healthy, well-balanced psyche, interacting with other healthy, well-adjusted people, and then being able to take that lived life, as I think you referred to it earlier, where a lot of times in older comics, the creators had actually lived for a few decades or more before they sat down to try to, tell these fictional stories.
Jack Kirby was 44 when he first started on Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So funny that 444, but I think he was 44. But yeah,
he and Stan were both in their mid 40s.
Yeah. That also gives inspiration. You've got to look at those people and see what they've done. It can inspire you to work yourself. I mean, I was in my early 40s when I got back into comics. I'm in my early 50s now, and I'm making books. I'm doing the thing that I always wanted to do, and finding at least a modicum of success doing it. I'm able to, if you're able to keep doing it and you don't lose your house, then you must be a somewhat successful. People are buying a book. People are interested in what you've got to do. People want to read your stories. So but yeah, definitely having some life experience, I think, helps. It doesn't, there are people who are young, who are naturals. It's always going to be the case. There's always going to be these people that just turn up. They're like savants, and they just write beautifully or draw beautifully, and you're always going to get that. But for a large percentage of people, they need to have a bit of experience before they can really get that connection. And it's just it really is just life experience. I certainly have benefited from it. I think my art is I mentioned this before. I got accepted via the New Talent Scout at Marvel in 94, 95, something like that. And it didn't go anywhere, and I ended up having a career and all the rest of it. But I actually think my art's better for it. I think I've brought a maturity to my art that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
And it's not just the art; it's the approach. It's how I come at it, and the way that I see art now is completely different. I had my Jack Kirby moment, and I started to appreciate all art. And not just saying I don't like that, so it must be wrong. You know, which is an immature way to look at art. Art's about a discussion. I mean, I think there is a point to saying some art objectively is just crap because it depends what you're trying to do. So, for instance, if you're objectively trying to tell a story through a comic, through the artistic medium of comic books, you need to be able to draw certain things well. And if you can't, then it's objectively bad.
Yeah.
You can say that about that kind of art. So it really depends on, what the purpose is for the art that you're producing and what the end product is as to whether you can designate something objectively not right, as it were. But art in general is about a conversation and about, pricking your imagination and making you think, much like what we're talking about drama in comics or drama in entertainment. Pricking your imagination. I've said this before. It's about a conversation. It's an interaction between you and the storyteller. And even though you can't talk back to the guy that's writing or the girl that's writing the comic or drawing the comic, you can't actively talk back to them. You are interacting with them if the story's done properly, because you're taking their story in and then you're using your private space to think about that story because it's inspired you. So that's effectively your interaction with them. But if you've created a story without drama or which is just surface level, then Pacific Rim, which there's nothing wrong with it. I absolutely love that.
Oh yeah, I find it very entertaining.
But if you're looking to get a reaction, to really connect with someone, then you want something more than just the flashy top or a virtue signaling, charade of what you consider to be the important talking points. And you want to create a real story that's actually going to prick someone's imagination and lure them in and want to reconnect with the characters that you're creating. I mean, that's important as well. Reconnection, wanting to come back for a second story, a third story, a fourth story, because you're invested in those characters. There's something else that's going on at the moment. So much drama involved in who's ruining what IP when, and canon doesn't matter, and you're just a child because you want to have the stories that you had, or you want the characters not to change from the ones you saw that you invested in. Well, that's the whole point of investment in a character. That's how you keep people coming back. I do think that maybe Marvel and DC characters have run their course, but they've over the years they've had opportunities to put more new characters in and to recreate that buzz about having the character connect with the reader, so that there should have been a never-ending source of new, middle, and old characters to work with. But they just drained the characters they've got, and now it's difficult for them to write stories about them. So what they do is they change them superficially, and that just annoys half of their audience. So you've got to think about new things, and you've got to stop working superficially and actually give people stories that are going to hook them in and want to come back for more. And the more drama you have on the outside of the story instead of the drama you have on the inside of the story, the less chance you've got of doing that.
Yeah, I mean, probably the last thing that I'll say about Amelia Clark's book with the menstrual superpowers is that I understand that a certain amount of what she's saying is just promotion for the book. And definitely, if you have something that you've produced, promote it by all means.
Yeah.
But like you say, if the if the characters are interesting enough and the story is interesting enough, then you don't have to, shout to the heavens that it's because there aren't enough women in comics that
No.
I decided I needed, like, this is my mission, this is my crusade, and I'm gonna make my stamp this way. Instead, if the characters were worth it, and if the story was worth it, you could just talk about the characters and the story, and then you could let the readers make up their mind if
Well, presumably
oh wow, this is a great statement about how blah 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 blah.
I mean, I presume she hasn't written the book yet. I presume nobody's put pen to paper yet.
Well, no, it's been worked on. I don't know exactly when it's going to go on sale.
You see,
but
if you start shouting like in the way that she has from the small bit I know, that's just virtue signaling. It's just bullshit. Okay, it's like, oh, I'm going to save this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. Wait until it's finished. Okay, and then you say, right, I've finished this. This is a real thing. It's my idea. Okay, and then with all her contacts in the entertainment industry, she can just go off on a marketing spree and say, this is my thing. Give it a go, everybody. But if you just, you know what I mean, she's just throwing crap out there and just saying, oh, look at me, this is going to be the best thing ever. And
I
there's
think
ways of doing things, and I do, I'm probably being a little unfair to her, but I have a bit of a bugbear about celebrity writers anyway, or celebrity authors, people just turning up off the back of something that they've done elsewhere and suddenly deciding that they can write, a lot of the time just getting ghostwriters to do their work, and they're rugged. It's actually
rugged.
They're rugged.
Yeah, the preview pages look pretty rugged. I guess they don't look very good.
All right, okay.
Yeah, the little bit that I saw, yeah, I really don't think that they're going to accomplish their goal. I mean, if they're trying to be entertaining, if that's even their goal, I don't think they're going to achieve it. But maybe there will be some people who are entertained by it. I don't know, but regardless, I think it comes back to if you're producing creative work. If you're somebody who has lived long enough that you've observed what's going on around you and you more or less understand what it's like to be the average person out there living their life in the world, then I think you have a good foundation from which you can build an interesting story with interesting characters, have dramatic tension in there, and whether it's you're writing straight drama, whether you're writing comedy, whether you're writing any other genre, it all comes down to conflict between people. It can, like, Dumb and Dumber is it is what it advertises itself to be. It's a very dumb comedy. A lot of people think it's very funny too, and almost all of the humor comes from people being in conflict with each other.
Yeah.
So that's they did it in a very humorous way. You could have a movie like Psycho, where there's conflict between Bates and Janet Leigh's character, and that's like pure drama, pure horror. By the time it gets in the film,
I think it's like you say, it's an understanding of conflict, but also of communication and relationships. And you don't have to be old to do that. I think experience can be piled up quite quickly if you've had a full life and you're a young person. It's not about age; it is about experience, and I mean, and also about intuition as well. So you can see that as an example of some young, singers that or artists that creates music, and you're like, where did that come from? That's a young person and they're creating amazing stuff. Well, you don't know what their life experience is. They might have had all kinds of things happen to them, and so it's not about the age, it is about experience, and that experience can come from all kinds of different places. But it's having the intuition to channel that into your communication via your storytelling that's important, instead of just shouting This is important. That is important. Whatever virtue signal is on the list this week, they're the most important things. Instead of just making a story that connects with people. That, like, so there's nothing wrong with marketing, nothing wrong with shouting as loud as you can about the product or the story that you're putting together. But if all you can shout is the bare minimum of why you're gonna, I don't know, for instance, save comic book industry for women, which is a load of old crap because women read comics anyway. They don't need to have some hysterically based ridiculous version of a woman in order for them to read a comic. They just need good characters and good connection, good storytelling, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and I think that if a lot of the creators that are still working today in corporate comics, even though they have a lot of constraints put on them by their corporate publishers, I think if they spent time just, it basically ignore social media and just spent time thinking about what it is to be a human being and what it's like when other human beings get into a situation, what are the possible dynamics that can come out from that? They could probably improve their storytelling quite a bit.
They'd definitely improve their profile.
Yeah. Well, for sure. You do better work and people tend to think better about you as a person if what they're experiencing of you is your work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do a lot of social media, but we had an electricity blackout on Tuesday this week because they were doing some work on the lines, and it felt great not having the computer on all day. I was just sitting there inking, and it was really good. I think genuinely people need to walk away regularly. There's no need to just like take all your accounts down because you want, as long as you're not shouting the odds and arguing with people too much, and you're being sensible about your usage of social media, it's worthwhile keeping hold of it and using it for what it's good for. But definitely walk away from it regularly and just go outside.
Yeah, well,
listen to the birds.
I think that's part of the problem with the prevalence of bad storytelling in recent years is you got so many people who are essentially trying to live their life through social media, and so their perspective gets warped, away from reality. And obviously, a bunch of us have seen a bunch of comics over the past several years where the characters sound like they're a couple of Twitter addicts just tweeting to each other rather than two human beings having a real conversation.
But the problem, this is the problem that the whole of the comic book industry, the whole of entertainment industry has got, is that people seem to be failing upwards. So even though we can sit here and say, oh, that kind of storytelling is awful, and people are obviously not buying it, it seems that the people in charge continue to reuse those same approaches to storytelling. I don't know why. I don't know why they're doing it, but they are, and I think that's the frustrating thing. Much like we were talking about this actress who's got a character in the comic and all the rest of it. It's not that she's got the comic or the character. I mean, I find it a bit ridiculous, but hey, everybody can do what they want. This comics are for everyone.
Right.
Anyone can make comics about any kind of project, any kind of subject. Do it. Go and do it. The problem is that when they don't sell, they keep on making the same stuff. And with the mainstream comics, as Marvel and DC specifically, instead of saying let's start a new line where we do slice of life, let's start a new line where we do romance, let's start a new line where we try and do, I don't know, like I've seen people do LGBTQ plus superhero stories that are just for fine, make the books, make them, but no, what they had to do is, because they can't see comics as anything else but superhero comics, okay, they had to go and change all the superheroes they've got to meet all these other genres, these slice of life, romance, whatever it might be. Right. And of course, it doesn't fit. That does not. Superhero comics don't fit all that stuff. Make new ones, make new stuff, and that unfortunately that doesn't come down to ideology. It doesn't come down to politics or anything like that. It comes down to bean counters,
Yeah.
not being able to take risks, because the only way you're going to make money, the only way you're going to make good art, in fact, is by taking risks.
Yeah.
Okay, and they don't want to take any risks. So what they should have been doing is saying, yeah, okay, we'll keep Thor doing that. We'll keep Captain America doing that. Let's make a slice of life book. Let's make something else. Let's make a romance like they used to. They used to do romance comics. Used to do war comics. Used to do all kinds of comics, but they just see it in such a small aperture of the whole of the potential of comics. That's the trouble. And I've said this before. It's like from the top down, they're not about making comics anymore, which means they're not going to take those risks to try and grow the different genres, the different, So now we're gatekeeping lazy people. I don't gatekeep anybody unless, of course, I'm at the door. You can't come in here. If your name's not on the list, you're not coming in.
Yeah, I gatekeep lots of people from my front door. It's one of those. I agree with you, what you're talking about with risk. And when it comes to the Outliers as a property and Outlier Comics as a company, I wouldn't get involved with it if there was no element of risk. Because you have to, if you want to succeed, the degree to which you will succeed in many ways is tied to the degree of risk you're willing to take. Now, there's foolish risk, and then there's calculated risk. So the trick, in my opinion, is to learn enough about the thing involved to where you can make some calculations, try to mitigate the risk as much as you can to improve your chances of success. But at the end of the day, you still have to take a step forward, not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah. And that's where all the best creativity comes from as well. Just by, putting yourself out into the unknown and coming up with a solution.
Yeah.
Take some of those risks. My dad said that to me before he died. He said he didn't have any regrets, as it were. Because he did the right thing by everybody.
Yeah.
But he said the reason that he didn't get as far as he liked was that he never took any serious risks. And I should bear that in mind. And I have borne that in mind, and I have taken risks. Calculated ones. Yeah. Not ridiculous ones. I'm not going to put the house up as a risk. It ain't going to happen. Right. Okay. But you kind of got to say, well, am I going to make money out of that? Am I not going to make money out of that? I've got to go with my gut. I've got to give it a chance, and I've been rejected and put to one side on multiple occasions, and you just got to get on with it, move to the next one, get on. And that's the only way to push forward. So
yeah,
bear that in mind.
I agree. View of Uranus says SJWs don't human. Comics, when they are at their best and most pure, is when they are showing humanity at its worst and its best.
Yeah.
And showing that powers don't make your life better.
Yes, definitely.
That is a great point. And
that's a great point, yeah.
That's actually also a great segue to
it's like money. Yeah, it is. But it's like money. Money doesn't make your life better. It's what you do with it that makes it better. Money can ruin your life. I just love that name, View of Uranus.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite handles I've seen on YouTube. So we've got a sequence from the Outliers that we're going to show you guys, and it really, I think, speaks to what we've been talking about today with drama, and a lot of it, I think, comes down to pacing. What type of dramatic elements are you introducing or exploring in your story, and what will people find interesting? And so if you know that a certain sequence might not hold a person's interest if it goes on for too long, There might be some drama in there, but it might not be enough to carry their interest for as long as you need it to. There are ways that you can change that. And rather than just writing a wall of text, you can get creative about what you're doing with the story, how you can tell it. And so we're going to show a sequence here of Outliers artwork that Russ has inked up in the last week. And we'll kind of walk through it and see what you guys think. So we're going to move the comment out of the way so we can see the full page. And so what we have here is the end of a particular sequence on panel 1. And then we're starting a new sequence here where we've got a couple of characters. There we go. Got a couple of characters, Misperception and Mini Mart. And they've been having this battle with the antagonist of this chapter, and it's a conversation here is taking place, and it's information that moves the story along, and it speaks to kind of the personality of these two characters. But I didn't want to have just pages and pages of dialogue stacked together for pacing reasons. And so we get into the next page and we cut. So we had been in an action sequence prior to the last page. Then we cut to the conversation. We follow that for a page, and now we cut back to the action. And we're showing that two different things are happening at the same time. There's this big fight that's going on, while in another area, there's this conversation between a couple characters. So here, the action proceeds for a couple of pages. We see their antagonist here, Dennis, the werebear. He's getting electrocuted here from Night Falcon, and he's really angry about that. And so he reaches around and grabs onto the source of his frustration here and sends it flying. So now we had a page of dialogue, but even at then, the characters, it was not like it was flat angles where you just park the camera and then just let them talk for a page. Different angles, different perspectives. You know, we see it from Misperception's perspective. We see it from Martin's perspective. So there's some variation there. We have a couple of pages of action. And then if we go to the next page, we cut back to this conversation. We show that time has passed, and you get the important elements as a reader of knowing what these two are talking about as they move the story along, but we're not making you sit through all of it. And really, after two panels here, the conversation's over. And Mini Mart goes zooming off, and he comes and finds what he's looking for down in the next to the last panel. He pulls these tranq darts out, and then he drops the gun and he zooms off. So it's a way of, yes, getting through the exposition that's necessary, but not making the reader have to feel like it's a chore to read this stuff. So anyway, there's an example of how you could take some drama that's action-oriented and some drama that's more interpersonal between a couple of characters, and you can have both, and you don't have to sacrifice the reader's attention span to do it. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the artwork. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to have to end a little bit early today. We are having a great time working on the Outliers. We hope you guys are enjoying being able to look at the process as we're going along. And, you know, I think that if we are just keeping our readers in mind when we're making these things as comic creators, that it's not that difficult to avoid the 6-page long sitting around the coffee, coffee cups and just chatting about, how's your day? Oh, okay. How was your day? Blah, 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 blah. Um, you know, all we have to really do is remember what it's like to be a human being, and then try and think about what other human beings are interested in, and then, do that.
Yeah, and that doesn't matter whether you're swinging around on arm hair or not. It's it all works out that way. If you're connecting with people, that's your job done.
Yeah.
Just saying the arm hair will do it for you, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either. Not interested. Sorry. All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, chat.
We hope that you guys have a great day. Hope you go out and make it a great day.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.